Well, Sue,
Okay.
we are so happy to be here with you in Victoria,
Yes.
in your home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to my home.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are honored by being here, and the main things for us is to deliver to you a huge hug from the Italian community. Italian therapists loves you. They are crazy about EFT because it's something that gave them a professional home and a safe home.
That makes me feel very good.
Yeah, so they are very grateful for you, and they want us to show to you their love and affection.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel very honored by that. That's beautiful. And I want to thank all of you, especially you two, for your incredible commitment and work and bringing all the work that we've done in the last 40 years to your beautiful country. Right? I love Italy. You know that. I mean, I've been many times. You know, I don't want to travel very much now, but if I was going to travel anywhere, I'd travel to Italy. Right. So I love Italy. You live in such a beautiful, rich place. So the idea of you teaching EFT there just warms my heart. It feels really good. And I thank you because I know the hard work it takes to bring a new way of seeing or a new model to a country. I know the hard work it takes, and the hard work it takes to create the kind of community that we try to create all over the world. We have 90 communities all over. I know 90. It's insane that we have 90. I can't believe it. But EFTers believe in connection, right?
Yeah.
They believe in connection. Sure. The Italians are very good at connection. So I think there is a natural link there, right? But I know it's hard work. So I thank you for your passion and your commitment on all the hard work you do. And so I say back to the Italian community that I thank you. I thank you for your interest, your time, your commitment, your passion. And I thank you for joining us in the EFT family and for growing this model, because as we come together, that's what happens. Every time I turn around, there is a new article in another language. There is a new community. There is a new study. There is a new way of talking about EFT. Every time I turn around, I cannot believe it. It's so that's because we're all working together and supporting each other, right?
Yeah. Together is a great word, because it's the means that we have in this community.
Yes, together. It's something that we believed since the very first moment. We learned this from you and from ISET and from this environment made by attachment. And so together is really something that saves us from being alone.
Yes. And why I love attachment science and theory so much is that I feel like it reflects this basic human reality that it sounds like a cliche, but in fact it is totally true, that when we feel safe together and we explore together and we are curious and we support each other, we grow faster and we thrive and we grow in ways that cannot be imagined when we are just by ourselves, right?
Yes.
It still amazes me. It amazes me the creativity that comes, for one thing, from people all over the world talking, sharing, contributing, growing, right? And growing to do something so worthwhile, to improve how we do psychotherapy, to improve our understanding of who we are as human beings. to improve relationships. This is what is more important than that? I don't know what is more important than that. Yeah.
This is the meaning of this meeting with you. So yeah, the meeting each other improve. We are sure that improve the EFT in Italy.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. I don't think you need to meet with me to do that. I have the feeling that you are just fine and that you are doing wonderful work. And I think it's great that these books are being translated. I think it's great that you are creating these communities. And just meeting you, I feel like you are doing what we seem to do, which is to inspire people, which makes me feel very good, and to create this passion in people. You know, I think that's what sort of propels us forward. You know, these, I ask myself, you know, why don't I just retire? You know, why don't I just stop? Yes, you laugh because you know me.
Yeah.
Yes, how could I? Yeah, well, why don't I just retire and sit and read, you know, and stuff like that? But no, because there is still something so, I see my clients, these days just individual clients, I see them and there is something so enthralling about talking to them and learning from them. There is something, I'm always curious about how they deal with their vulnerability, how they deal with their life, right? What it feels like to be in their skin. And it's always inspires me that they are able to move through therapy, through their difficulties in a way that is beautiful. That's the only word you can have for it. It's beautiful, and it grows you as a therapist and inspires you, not just the client, right? So it's interesting because people talk a lot in North America about therapist burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I can remember reading about it and thinking, oh yes, okay, I understand that. And then I checked in with me and I thought, I don't know what they mean. Because no, you know, I think if you have a way of seeing that is nurturing to you and your clients and a model that you can trust and that you maintain your curiosity, you are nurtured by your practice. Not, I mean, sometimes you are tired and you say, why? I remember on Friday afternoons, I used to drive home and think to myself, why didn't I become a dentist? You know, because in my city, all the dentists would have 4-day weekends. Okay, so I would think, I am insane. Why aren't I a dentist? But generally, I think this combination of science and careful research and observing sessions to see how people change and how people get stuck, and heart, being able to really connect with people and the struggle that we all have. This combination of heart and science has us thrive as human beings, not just as therapists, not just as clients, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is so protective for us and for them. I mean, it's something that I think I really relate with what you said. We can do this job being connected with our client and
Yes.
looking at their emotional corrective experience.
But
and
perhaps that's even easier in Italy, because the Italians have a certain je ne sais quoi. They have a certain, I don't know really what you call it, life force that is, you know, I don't know what that is. It's, you know, I remember standing in an airport when there was a huge crisis going on and everyone else was freaking out and sort of getting smaller. And all the Italian people were not. They were getting bigger. They were going, you know, they were expressing themselves, right? It was, I liked it. I thought it was Actually, I think EFT fits very well with the Italian temperament.
Absolutely. EFT in Italy works great. Great. But
Yes.
it's a really way to change the way to work for Italian therapists, this model, really. And we saw many therapists that changed the relation with this work after the training in EFT.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
that's
this is great.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
That's our mission, is to bring this way of seeing and this way of working with people out into the world and give it to people out into the world to enrich the field of psychotherapy, and not just couples. You know, now we're moving into, which is a little crazy of us. I don't know. As I said to you, I don't know why I don't just retire and say, oh, we have contributed to couples, so we don't need to do anything more. No, now we are writing about EFIT, emotionally focused individual therapy, which is just translated into Italian. Yes, that makes me proud.
Yeah.
So, you know, now we are, it's the same model, it's the same skills, it's the same way of seeing, but translates into working with individuals, which we have done all these years. We just haven't talked about it very much. I've always, all through my career, I've worked with individuals, particularly individuals facing trauma.
Yeah.
So in a way, it is time now to talk about it. And we use the EFT tango. The real difference is in move 3 of the tango, creating these dramas that, you know, where you go into scenes where your vulnerability is really up and running, and you walk through that vulnerability and out the other side. And in that process, this becomes an identity drama. You change how you see yourself and other people. You know, those dramas are the same as in couples. In couples, the couple do it between them, and then they grow each other. In EFIT, the person, you know, does it with the therapist, talks to the therapist, or most often closes their eyes and goes into the cast of characters that they carry around with them and talks to a key attachment figure, their mother, you know, their, I remember one client, I'd only seen her 3 times, and she basically said, no, I can't close my eyes and say anything to my mother. I've never, ever said anything to my mother besides what she wants to hear. I couldn't possibly, you know, ask my mother to listen, or I couldn't get angry with my mother or sad. And then an hour later, she's closing her eyes and saying, hey, Mum, you suck, and you didn't hold me and you didn't see me, and how could you do that? And I'm filled with sadness, and also I'm angry at you. And then I say, hey, look at what you've done. That's very EFT. So she does this with the characters in her head. And one of the most moving things in EFIT is that we found again and again, when we watch the tapes, one of the most powerful things is for people to actually see their most vulnerable self. And go in as an adult, as a less helpless figure supported by the therapist, and hold that vulnerable self and give that vulnerable self what that vulnerable self needed and never got. You know, and that can be, you know, you as a child, you at 15, you last week when you were in a situation that you just couldn't handle, right? So it's very inspiring when people do that, and it shifts individuals out of depression and anxiety and PTSD. So it's very inspiring to watch this, where, and that's the reason we've just done this big study on EFIT, which the results will be out soon.
My experience about EFIT that helped very much to keep out from the contents. It's clear because you work with the self and not with the content of the experience.
Yes.
And this helps the therapist very much, because, you know, the individual therapy sometimes content, but when you have this focus, this gave a great push to the therapy.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
you're right. That's a basic shift, isn't it? It's a basic shift to look at the process. You know,
Yeah.
how are you putting that experience together? How are you right now, right here? How are you putting that emotional experience together? Not all the details of the content
Exactly.
of what you are thinking about the experience. Let's not talk about things. Let's go into things and, you know, sit in them and right. So one of my favorite questions in EFT is, what is happening for you right now as you say this? You know, and people at first in therapy, you know, I have a new client right now and she looks at me and she says, let's get this clear here in this therapy. I don't want to feel anything.
Okay.
And I said, okay, see, no, well, we'll see about that. I said, oh, you don't want to feel anything. So then there is no way out with EFT. You say, aha, could you help me understand what is going to happen if you feel something right here, right now? When I turned to you and I said, and you said, no, I don't want to feel. Let's look at that moment. What happens to you? What's going to happen when you feel? And so then you go into that, you know, because experience just flows along and you grab a piece of it and you say, let's look at the structure of that experience. What happens there? And that is rich. It's always rich. Whereas people can sit and talk to you about their lives forever. And I know as a therapist, I begin to, you know, to sort of wilt in my chair and, oh, you know, what was that story again about your cousin on Thursdays, you know, and you think, no, we're not making any progress here. What, you know, so it's interesting. I think sometimes we complicate everything. We have all these labels for people, all these ways of labeling them and saying what is wrong with them. You know, in the end, it just feels like to me like we, as EFTers, we go slowly and carefully and safely into people's most vulnerable places. And we say, what do you do there? How do you put your world together? How do you relate to yourself? How do you relate to others? What do you do there? And that's always fascinating too for me. That's always like, you know, you do what? You know, and my latest client, I'm sorry, could you help me? When you feel this way, you get up from your chair, you go and you read philosophy. Is that what you do? And you have 6 philosophers and you read them. Okay, could you help me? All right. That, and think, really, like, well, that's a way out, right? That's and how does that go for you? Well, not really well, because you can only keep reading philosophy for so long, and then the vulnerability is waiting for you again, you know. But I think we have a way of distilling things,
Yes,
and making sense of things that allows the therapist to be incisive, go to the heart of what is going on. And then therapy becomes exhilarating for the therapist as well as for the therapist as well as the client. But you know, hey, I'm still talking to you about this. I'm still enthralled by this, you know, and that's why I look at people very strangely when they say, shouldn't you retire?
Oh,
I don't really know what that word means.
no.
Does it mean, it seems to mean that you stop doing what you love and what you're finally good at. You know, when we finally get good at things, then everyone says, well, you're finally good at this. Why don't you retire? What? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it
please no, then.
well,
Please no.
yeah.
Or at some point.
don't fly all over the. I don't fly all over the world anymore and teach in cities. I did that.
Yeah.
I think I have retired from airports and lineups, and I retire from that. But you know, now we can talk on Zoom, and we've just done the primer for EFIT, and we will now do one on trauma. And the results for the EFIT study will come out, and every time I turn around, there's something exciting happening in the EFT world. So why would you not do that? And people like you guys are teaching and also creating communities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also speaking about excitement and new things, I might share this also,
That's
excitement,
right. Yes.
which is the new edition of Stringimi Forte.
I love the name Stringimi Forte. I mean, it's so beautiful. Listen to it, my terrible Italian. Stringimi Forte. I mean, it's
bellissimo, è bellissimo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
English sounds so boring compared to Stringimi Forte. That looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks great, and it's a great gift for all the Italian people, actually. Not it's for everyone, for everybody, and it's speaking about love.
Yes. One of the what I love, which still gives me a little thrill, is at the beginning of all this, that I would say things like, what on earth is going on here in the distressed relationship? And really nobody could tell me. So I went to all these books as a graduate student and they didn't help. So then I just watched tapes after tapes after tapes after tapes and started to get it. And then when I understood attachment theory, I really got it. And I remember sitting at a conference and listening to somebody say, well, you know, love is always a mystery and nobody's understood it and it's the great mystery and we can't understand it. And I felt like saying, excuse me, excuse me, no, yoo-hoo, no, it isn't, no, it makes exquisite sense. It's got a structure, just like emotion, relationships, our emotional life, it's got a structure and we can look at it just like scientists have looked at DNA, scientists have looked at all kinds of things in the universe. It's got a structure. And if we understand the structure, we can start to reorganize it. Yeah, but you don't. You sit in the audience politely. Maybe in Italy they are more effusive. Maybe they stand up and say, "Hey,
amore." You speak about amore.
Yes, I actually did stand up in Paris and say, I don't think so. I think we have cracked the code of love, and people were very angry at me.
Oh.
Well, because they basically said, how dare you come here to Paris and tell us that an English person and an American has cracked it. So I thought, oh, okay. And I had the feeling it was also because I was female, because I was the only female on the stage and the others were gentlemen. So I had the feeling that I had massively offended at least half the audience, but the bottom line is it's true. Yes. We've cracked the code of love, the code of the key elements in romantic and in bonded relationships. And I think what comes along with that, which has us doing EFIT, is that with that, you start to crack the code of these amazingly powerful emotional episodes where we decide who we are and we decide what to do with our vulnerability and we decide how to regulate our emotions. And those moments are so important, so powerful. And when you go into and expand that drama, then people's sense of who they are shifts and their relationship shifts and the way of dealing with their emotions shift. We were talking when we were having coffee about my colleague, my client Henny. I talk about her in the EFT book, where she goes through this dreadful traumatic experience, and I'm concerned for her. It was a traumatic experience that she never remembered before, right? And now she remembers and she goes through it with me. I think she did not remember because she could not go through that experience alone. She needed someone like me there. So then she goes through it, and I'm concerned for her. And at the end of it, it struck me very much that I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Oh, yes, it was very difficult. But you see," what she did was she went in that experience and felt the little traumatized child lying on the floor, saw her for the first time, and went in as the adult and held that child. So I said, "So what was the impact of that?" And she said, "Oh, I'm okay, Sue, because it was difficult, but you see, now I have me."
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I felt, okay, now you have gone as an adult and seen that child, recognized that vulnerability, owned it, taken it in, and moved in as an adult and held it and taken it in and, you know, being able to do more than tolerate it, be able to move through it, right? So that's, and when you go to those places with people, it's an honor.
It is.
It's a privilege. It's there's something sacred about it, right? And that is then I feel like, yes, I know why I did not become a dentist. I know why I am a psychotherapist. Now I know.
Yeah. We love this work really, because it changed ourselves in many ways. So each session is a gift from the humanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we are, yes, we are, and that is a lot more than trying to help somebody deal with symptoms. You know, that is a lot. Like, you know, my client says, I do not sleep. I do not turn the light off. 25 years old. I do not turn the light off ever. And I do not sleep, and I do not lock the doors in my house. I do not, because you need to get out. Yeah, I need to, and I don't turn the light off, and I don't sleep. And I have been to therapy, and they have taught me all these methods of trying to make myself sleep. And I say, so let's look at the exquisite logic that I know is there behind how come you don't sleep. You know, what is going to happen if you let go and let yourself sleep, right? And of course, it's all about trauma. And of course, when she starts to move through that trauma, she starts to be able to let go and find safety and sleep, right? So we go underneath the surface to the emotions that are organizing somebody's reality and shift those, right? Not skimming across the surface. You know, I remember as a graduate student going to all these lectures and listening to all my these behavioral professors, and all the other students thought it was very persuasive, and I just felt puzzled by it. I just felt so puzzled by it. I couldn't. No, it never made sense to me. I felt like that's not where people live. You aren't going to the heart of the matter somehow. I think it's because I grew up in an English pub, watching people. I didn't watch TV. I stood on a stool and cleaned glasses and watched people cry and fight and flirt and you know, seduce each other. I didn't know what they were doing. I didn't know they were seducing each other. I was 5 years old, right? But you know, that's what they were doing. And you know, I grew up watching all this, and I watched my father soothe people. He was the publican. You know, I watched my father soothe people and hold people and use his voice. You know, in EFT, we say, drop your voice and go slow. Well, I watched my dad do that 1,000 times. Yes, that's so difficult, George. I understand. Yes. And I thought, well, my daddy's very nice, because George comes in at 5 o'clock every day and has 3 large scotches and says the same thing to my father. My father always says, yes, George, that's so difficult, George. Yes. You know, and George comes back. because George comes for the safety, not for the scotch.
Yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't come for the scotch. He comes for the safety. Yeah. So I feel so good about you guys doing all this wonderful work in Italy and creating this vibrant community. And I thank you for your amazing commitment and your amazing work. And I thank everyone in the community for your time, attention, passion, curiosity. I thank you for your engagement in our EFT family, in our model, in our work. So we all work together. We're going to make the field of psychotherapy richer, more relevant. We're going to move it into growing people in a new way. I believe we can do that.
Yes.
So, and if the Italians can't do it, nobody can do it. That's,
and we say grazie.
Grazie.
Su.
Thank you. Grazie.
Grazie to you. Grazie.
Grazie.
Yes, nice to be with you guys.
For
Nice
to be
to be.
our secret base in
Yes.
EFT.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Nice to be with you all. Nice to be able to talk to you.
Ci vediamo presto. Ciao.
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 Ciao. Yes, ciao.